we are going to go to ceremonial presentations, but before we do that, Councilmember Esparza had a special item on there with regards to a resolution expressing solidarity with farmers protesting the passage of farming bills in India and in support of affected members of Fresno South Asian community. And so with that, I will turn it over to Councilmember Esparza.
Yes, thank you, Council President. As the first resolution of the year, while we've seen a lot of social and economic injustice nationwide and globally, today I want to hone in on an international issue that is impacting our local Indian community, our Fresno South Asian community here, right here in Fresno. So you did read off the title, but I did want to provide just a very light background. Obviously, when we get into some of these geopolitical issues, it's very complex. The economics are very complex, but the summary is that the Indian government has deregulated the market for farming within the country and widely destabilized many small farmers within the country, and really invited the largest corporations to absorb and sort of decimate those farmers. And as you know, we here locally, we have a large South Asian community, Indian community, our Sikh brothers and sisters who have been impacted. And in fact, many members of these communities have participated in caravans all the way in San Francisco and in Sacramento. There have also been other Indian American protests held in support of the farmers that were held in Chicago, Indianapolis, New York, Houston, Michigan, Washington, D.C., and Atlanta that I know of. So, you know, even though this is happening in India, this is impacting our communities right here domestically. And so I wanted to bring this resolution forward to show support for these local communities and show support for these peaceful protests that are occurring in India. Specifically, what's going on with the Indian government, there's the deregulation and the takeover of these corporations has come in the form of 3 different farming acts. And so I do want to make a motion to approve. And before the item is over, I'll have the clerk sort of read the short resolution.
Got a motion by Vice President Esparza. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Soria. Roll call.
Well, Council President, do we have to do open to the public?
Yes, public comment.
We have to open it to public comment? Okay. Do we have anybody wanting to speak on this? Brianna, do we have anybody wanting to speak?
You've got one hand.
Yes, 1 second. Mr. Carr, Jaskeet Carr.
All right, you have 3 minutes.
All right, hello. Good afternoon, City of Fresno Council. My name is Jaskeet. I am a community member and organizer in Fresno County with the Jagata movement and a proud former council aide. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation that's taking place today in City Hall and in your offices because I know for myself and the families within the Punjabi Sikh diaspora, the farmers' protest or Kisan Morcha is all we've been able to think about since late last year. It may seem as if this issue doesn't affect us sitting in another country, but from the breadbasket that is the Central Valley to the breadbasket of South Asia, it is extremely crucial for Fresno to be educated about and recognize what's happening in the region. What we are witnessing is one of the largest global protests in human history. We're witnessing a stand against capitalism, corporate greed, and the right to livelihood for not just farmland owners, but farmland laborers who have already been financially suffering prior to the enactment of these anti-farmer laws. Tens of thousands of farmers have marched from the states of Punjab, Haryana, and Rajasthan and have essentially gridlocked New Delhi. They have peacefully set up camp on 5 major freeways and outside the capital to send the message that they're not going anywhere until change is made. These protesters were met with tear gas, water cannons, barricades, baton attacks, and many attempts have been made to not only remove them from protesting sites, but prevent them from arriving as well. Many of these farmers are elders that are sleeping through very harsh winter conditions, and as of yesterday, reports have shown that nearly 70 farmers have died so far while protesting. To provide some foundation about the gravity of this issue, there is a very deeply rooted history of oppression from the Indian government against its minorities. And that's why our diaspora is raising awareness however we can. Like Councilmember Esparza mentioned, there have been caravans all across California, but not only California, this is worldwide. This is happening in Canada, New Zealand, England, UK, everywhere that our community resides. So it's really important that we show the solidarity and do what we can to be a voice for the voiceless in this time.
Thank you, Mr. Esquito. Bring it back to the council. Does any other council members have any comments?
I want to thank Ms. Carr for summarizing that, the complexities of the situation better than I could have. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So now we have a motion by Vice President Esparza, second by Councilwoman Soria. Roll call.
Councilmember Bredefeld,
Yes.
Councilmember Maxwell,
Aye.
Councilmember Karbasi,
Yes.
Councilmember Soria,
Yes.
Councilmember Arias,
Yes.
Council Vice President Esparza,
Aye.
President Chavez,
Yes.
7-0.
And as I had mentioned, and this is a resolution. This is the City Council making an official declaration. But similar to a proclamation, I would like for the clerk to read into the record, just for the folks listening.
Sure.
Sure.
Whereas the state of California remains a proud farming community, and whereas the state of California understands and respects the contributions of farmers in meat and feeding nations, and whereas the state of California is home to thousands of farmers who still own farmland in their ancestral countries, and whereas the Indian government proposed and passed bills in September 2020 to deregulate the sale of crops in India by dismantling minimum support prices for crops, removing restrictions on purchase of land by corporations, and removing limits on stockpiling commodities. And whereas these laws set off protests across India, particularly in the state of Punjab and Haryana, and resulted in over 250,000 farmers protesting on national highways entering the India capital of New Delhi. And whereas India's violence against peaceful protests has included the use of tear gas, water cannons, barricades, and baton attacks. And whereas many of these farmers have children, relatives, and friends who live in the United States and Fresno. And whereas 86% of Indian farmers own only 2 or fewer acres of farmland within an average income of $1,400 per year and do not have the means to bargain with large private corporations. And whereas anti-farmer policies, debt, and deteriorating financial status have led to 363,726 Indian farmers and farm laborers committing suicide between 1995 and 2019. And whereas the government of India Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been criticized for silencing religious minorities, including Sikhs, Muslims, and these policies have the most negative impact on food and economic security in the state of Punjab, home to India's largest Sikh community. And whereas protecting agriculture and farmers hurt most by the legislation should be a priority. And whereas farmers have the right to demonstrate peacefully and the City Council condemns any police brutality. And whereas numerous rallies have been held recently take place across the state of California protesting the bills. And whereas the City Council has long recognized and stood with diverse communities whose families face hardships abroad. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Fresno as follows. The City of Fresno stands in solidarity with those protesting and condemns the violence of the Indian government in suppressing the rights of peaceful protesters, farmers, and their families who have been directly affected.
Thank you, clerk.
Thank you,